Hello, right, another Elite Dangerous video with a difference. As you can see, well, if you can just about see it, it is currently 5:38. The servers went down at 3 o'clock and we were told it was for an hour, so that actually it may have been 4 o'clock they went down. We were told it was for an hour to apply patch 1.3.2, and well, let's say they went offline at 4 o'clock. Then that means we were told they would be down for an hour. It is now an hour and 40 minutes. If it was 3 o'clock, which I can't actually remember which one it was, but if it was 3 o'clock, they've been down now for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I pressed the wrong thing. Hurry up, this thing's as bloody slow as Elite Dangerous bloody hyperspace sometimes. Now, for one thing, I don't even get the option to upgrade to 1.3.2, so clearly it isn't working. But whereas every other game I know that is online, either because I've seen it or I've played a demo of it or whatever, somewhere on the launcher will tell you the status of the server, whether it's online or not, so as you know whether or not to bother launching it. Not here. Those games that don't come up with a pop-up window when you try to serve it, telling you, or try to start it, telling you that the servers are offline and the game can't be started. Again, not here. Frontier Developments think they have a better idea, which is to do this. So you click on play and the game does eventually start. And when the game does finally start up, you first get the title page. Then we get the whole fucking preparing shaders, because Frontier Developments think it's a better idea that instead of having, you know, some whatever program telling this that there have been no graphics hardware changes or driver changes, it's exactly the same setup as before. No, it has to prepare it from scratch every time. And only when you get to the main menu do you find that you can't connect to the Elite Dangerous server. Now why the fucking hell do you have to sit through that all the time? Because there are a lot of people, and I am most definitely one of them, who don't bother with Frontier Developments Facebook page, Twitter page. I almost never go to the forums. So this is my only way of finding out, and this is the only way for a lot of players to find out. So they couldn't have made it more fucking awkward if they tried. So it's a total fucking waste of time, just like almost everything else with this fucking thing. And that isn't going to change at all. I mean, Elite Dangerous, the first patch was one almighty fucking disaster. When it first went live, people were getting disconnected left, right and centre. Those of us who could stay online, I heard from Alpha November, he couldn't get the bulletin board to appear at all. It always came up with the error that he couldn't connect to the server. I managed to get the bulletin board to appear once in, actually no, I got it to appear twice in 7 attempts. But that's only the beginning of the problems. Some of the fixes on in patch 1 were a fucking joke. They were not fixes at all. They were just some sort of blanket cover-up, and well, I ended up going onto the forums. Firstly, because I wanted to read the changelog and see what was in there, and when I saw 3 of the changes, I just could not believe my eyes. What I found even more difficult to believe, though for once I was glad to see it, was they were all getting a deserved backlash. There was an absolute outrage about these 3 particular changes, and among those people who were absolutely tearing Frontier Developments apart were people who I had seen on there before who were absolute brown nosers. So even some of the, like, you know, confirmed brown nosers of Frontier Developments, even they are getting sick of this bullshit. The first fix was the one that caused the biggest outrage. And that was that if you were travelling through hyperspace and you got a disconnection and the game couldn't load properly or whatever, it would then transport you back to the last place you were docked. Now, when I first read that, the first thing that came into my mind, and it was the first thing that came into a lot of people's minds, was this. Imagine you've been exploring, and your next hyperspace destination was Sagittarius A not out, as I've taken to calling it. 25,000 light years away from populated space. It's taken you months to get there. You've acquired the data of thousands of systems, and you're about to reach your goal. Then you get this crash. So now you are going to be transported back to the last station that you were docked at. 25,000 light years away from where you just were. So you've done that months of exploration all for nothing. You've lost it all, not because of something you've done, but because a Frontier Developments fuck up, and their solution is to seriously punish you for something that they fucked up on. Now, because that got such an enormous backlash, they had to very quickly backtrack at it. I think this is one of the reasons why the Beta 1 release was such a disaster, was because although it was live, they were having to quickly implement a sort of hotfix to what what was turning out to be a publicity relations disaster, and was proving that the QC within Frontier Developments just doesn't exist. And what they did was very quickly change it, and they even changed the changelog so that all mention of the starting back in the docking station had gone, apart from the 1,000,001 people who had quoted it. They couldn't change that a lot. But it was going to then transport you back some up to 9 jumps away from where you were, which is still nowhere near acceptable. So you're going to have to do, well, up to 9 jumps that you'd already done. And if you're exploring, that's 9 more systems that you've got to re-scan. And if you are one of those people who scans everything in a system, that is hours of going through something that you've already done. I mean, although the crashes are, outrageously frustrating and completely unforgivable, given that it is a Frontier Developments problem and they are insistent on punishing you. What was wrong with how it was set, which is when it reloads, you're in the system that you were supposed to have jumped to in the first place? What was wrong with that? It didn't punish you for a fuck up that Frontier Developments did. But when that happened, you arrived in that system, but you didn't lose any fuel from the hyperspace jump. So you did gain a tiny little bit. You get to keep a little bit of your fuel. And because you gained out of it, Frontier Development suddenly, you know, wanted to do something about it. Even though by gaining that tiny little bit, you had to go through the frustration of yet another fucking server disconnect. Because Frontier Developments don't bother upgrading or improving their servers or adding to them. They're still running the entire game from 2 servers. So that was the first issue. The second issue was the problem with naval rank progression. And their solution was to reset every player who had been affected by this naval rank issue back to where they were when 1.3 first came in. Now, I was one of these players. I had been affected by it, but my issue was that I had done 5 naval rank missions to try and get up to the Duke rank. And the red mist descended on me, and I actually posted on Frontier Development's forum on that thread about it. Saying, so am I going to be punished because of that issue? Am I going to be going back to what I was at the start of 1.3, which was Earl, so I will have lost my Marquis and the Duke rank, which I finally got after 5 attempts? Like everybody else who raised that issue, Frontier Developments completely ignored them. What I can say is that in one of the very brief instances where I was able to get into the game after 1.3.1, I've not lost it. I am still at Duke. But there are going to be a lot of players who have lost it, because rather than take the professional attitude, which is to go through each account on a player per player basis, no, they just blanket covered everybody and implemented a fix that is likely to piss far more people off than it is actually going to appease anybody, because it sorts out an issue. It hasn't sorted out the issue at all. It's just basically reset it. The third issue is another one that really got up people's noses, and that was the issue with some minor faction reputation and influence gains. And again, their solution to this is to do the same thing. They've reset them all to how it was at the or just before 1.3 went live. Now, I don't know if that's happened to everybody. To be honest, I haven't had the chance to get onto the fucking game long enough to check. But if it has reset it to for everyone, and the way it was worded, that does seem to be the case. Well, a lot of players, including me, paid donations to improve their reputation and their influence. Also did missions where you give away goods, usually either food or slaves or medicines of some kind or reactive armour, and we gave them away. Does that mean we get refunds? Because now we've made donations either of credits or commodities for nothing. So we should therefore be credited back with the credits that we have now wasted. Are they going to do that? Surprise, surprise, they've stayed silent on it. And of course by now we all know that means no, you're not. There was something else actually. What I was saying about how it should be done in a professional way on a player per player basis, that definitely applies to the whole thing about the crash in during hyperspace. And Frontier Developments did actually say somewhere along the lines that they started doing that because there were a lot of explorers who were saying, well, we're going to, if we get that crash, we're going to be taken back thousands, if not tens of thousands of light years for something we haven't done. So Frontier Development stated, okay, well, in those cases, we will do it on a player per player basis. Now when you look through the forums, you get the impression, right, that quite a lot of active players, or at least a large proportion of the active community, are out exploring. And yet Frontier Developments did actually give a number. They said, okay, we're doing this on a player per player basis so that explorers aren't going to be affected by it, and they gave the number of explorers that covered, and that number was 90. I'll let that sink in. It's not even in 3 figures. 90. That is the entire amount of active community members who are exploring. Just 90. Which makes you wonder just how large this Elite Dangerous community is. If a sizable number of them are out exploring, and yet that's only 90 players. So anyway, this is, well, I'll say, it's an Elite Dangerous video with a difference. Because, well, like everybody else at the moment, I can't even get on there. Now in that thread about the patch 1 update, there were a lot of players who were saying, you know, because, you know, this whole thing is absolute bullshit and that, I may not actually play the game anymore. That is not going to have any effect on Frontier Developments at all. They don't give a toss if you play the game or not, because they've got their money from you when you bought the game. That's all they're interested in. So you not playing the game, they couldn't give a shit. That's not going to make any difference at all. If you want to actually protest against the way Frontier Developments are constantly fucking up, and with their so-called fixes that aren't fixes at all and are going to impede as many players, if not more players, as help those who were affected, then not playing the game isn't the way to do it. The way to do it is to go public about it. Take screenshots, make videos, link to you know, threads in forums that show this bullshit. Make the gaming community aware of what Frontier Developments are doing and how they are treating their players. Because if there is anybody in the gaming community who is interested in getting the game, they can look through your videos, your screenshots, your links, your write-ups, and they will find out just what kind of fucking mess the game is in. And the fact that Frontier Developments seem hell-bent on doing nothing about it. And that way, those potential customers will look at all that lot and just say, well, fuck it, I'm not buying that. And that will then affect sales of the game, and that will hurt Frontier Developments, and that will force them to actually do something. It will force them to either actually start implementing in-house testing, actually start implementing some form of quality control, actually start listening to people who are beta testing, actually start listening to complaints and constructive criticisms either on their forums or in videos like mine and videos like quite a number of other people who are rightly pointing out serious flaws and problems in the game, and actually start ignoring the brown nosers who are the ones who constantly say everything is great when it clearly fucking is not. Because once you start affecting Frontier Development's sales and therefore start affecting their bank balance, they've got no choice. They then have to listen. So only by going public about it and telling the gaming community about it will you have any effect. Stopping playing the game won't do anything, because Frontier Developments don't care if you stop playing the game. So they've got their money, that's all they want. So, you know, they've got their money from you, you're not playing the game, so therefore they don't have to address any issues you've got, because they know you're not playing it. So there you go, so this is my latest Elite Dangerous video, even though it's a bit strange, because there's, well, for the vast majority of it, there isn't even the slightest or even glimpse of Elite Dangerous, let alone any actual gameplay. But I think this all needed to be said. So we'll see how many brown nosers come along and vote this video down. I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised if there were a number of people who voted it down on the grounds that it's an Elite Dangerous video where Elite Dangerous isn't actually in it. In that respect, I can quite understand that happening. But there we go. So that's me done. Well, this is Commander Lucosa, even though I'm nowhere near my ship, saying go away.